COVID-19 has affected so many people in so many ways. And especially for me, it hasn't really affected me negatively because I haven't gotten it or lost anybody for it. But mentally, I am definitely a different person than I was before 2020. And uh, there were actually some benefits that came out of being in quarantine and being, cooped up in the house all the time. It is giving me the motivation to work harder and become and better myself as a musician, as a student, as an artist, as a person in general.
Elijah, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, man. I want to just give you your kudos and your congrats for doing the podcasting project that I implemented with your class at Duke Ellington School of the Arts. Because I know it's been a rough time for kids in schools, especially public schools in DC and around the country right now. What have the last 11 months been like going to school during COVID-19?
Ooh, the last 11 months have been different, definitely. I'd say for me personally, they're not too difficult, but there is an adjustment that has to be done. Um, it's definitely different from being in person. You don't feel the same type of energy.
Right.
There's still that family aspect, but you don't feel the same energy as you would if we were in person.
How do you get that family, that realness of going to school while you're online, while you're remote? You're in breakout rooms with your classmates in the chat rooms, but you don't have that, one-to-one interpersonal interactions with them. What do you mean by it's a family still?
Um, when it comes to my classmates, at least when I talk to them, we pretty much pick up right where we left off. Especially when we first started school virtually, it was like the only thing in between us was a screen.
Yeah.
But really, it's still the same. You can still feel the same interact. You can still have that kind of same interaction, just not physically. We still have. We still joke around with each other. We still have our little roast sessions and stuff like that. It's still really fun and engaging. It's just that we have a screen now.
So you say you've made the most of the pandemic.
Yes,
Okay.
I
Okay.
definitely have tried to make the most of the pandemic.
Right. Right. So Duke Ellington, School of the Arts, you say you're still cracking on each other, you're still having a good time. It's just been an adjustment. It's been, a transition. Schools in DC, they're going to be coming back. Teachers have gotten the vaccine mostly. A lot of these schools are actually back into the classroom. What do you think about that soon?
I'm sort of a 50-50 with that, especially with how dangerous the the virus is, how dangerous it is, but also I'm glad that we're trying to keep moving forward, especially with the teachers getting vaccines and everyone going back to school. The only concern I have is that I don't know how easy it would be to come back with the problems that we've had in the past with the schools going back, and then somebody ends up getting the virus and passing it on to their classmates or to a teacher, or the teachers get it and pass it on to the students. And so that concerns me a little bit. But personally, I think it's a good thing that we're moving forward.
You fear a teacher or a classmate or any of the students getting COVID and then having to shut school back down?
Yes.
Why is that?
The differences having to change and go back and forth between virtual and in person it could be harmful to the mindset of the students and the teachers and everybody else who is affected by the pandemic and by having to go to school virtually and in person.
So, like personally, that's what's going through your head right now?
Yes.
Wow. I didn't think that students would be feeling that way. I would think y'all would want to get back and seeing your friends. Um, but that's not the case.
I'm definitely anxious. I definitely do want to go back, but I also want to stay as safe as possible while doing so. And so that's why in my head I'm thinking, let's try to move forward, but let's try to move forward safely, instead of rushing into things and then having to start right back where we started.
So when you say moving forward safely, maybe not going back into the classroom, but at Duke Ellington, a lot of students who are performers and play instruments have already started to go back. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So one thing I do know is that not everyone is back every single day. And also me as an instrumentalist, I know that the instrumental department is not back yet, because especially the wind instruments, because our instruments are pretty much projectors of germs and air and dirty contaminated air.
Y'all could just be
So
spitting COVID all around.
right, right. We be spreading it all over the place, because the thing is we get to play in the hallways and stuff, but I'm sure if we did go back, we would probably not be able to play in the hallways. We would have to be confined in our either band room or a practice room or classroom, something like that, if we did go back, because we don't want that spread to happen over around the school.
I played the clip earlier of you saying that, COVID maybe made you better, more productive for yourself and for your music. What has that done for you being able to play your music still throughout COVID?
Well, I'd say this pandemic has definitely encouraged me to cherish my music, and also want to become better at playing my music, so that by the time all of this is over, you know, I could share my music even more than what I have, these past 11 months, because actually I started a series on Instagram called One Song Concerts.
Mm.
And so I was playing my instrument, I would play outside or in my living room, and I would just share that with the world, because I didn't want to, you can't be a musician without actually communicating music and sharing music with other people, so that's what that was all about.
Elijah, that's really powerful. Music, I used to be a vocalist. Music is definitely a universal language.
Yes,
And
definitely.
instruments, music, arts, text, those things, no matter what language you speak, like I said before, those melodies, they transfer over, so continue to do that when people are out here hurting and suffering and having that fear of COVID being out and around them and not having the vaccine. They need something to fall back on. They need something to put their minds at ease. So tell me just a little bit more about this series, because I'm really intrigued now by the fact that you're doing this for others.
Well, this series, I got the idea from my parents. My parents were like, "You have to do something.
Shout
You
out mom
can't
and
just."
dad.
Yeah,
Shout out
shout
to
out mom and
Woodward.
dad, definitely. They said you have to do something. You can't, sit idly by knowing that you have this gift and not share it with other people, especially during this time. Because I was already performing with my band at places like Busboys and Poets in Washington D.C.
Okay.
But especially when this pandemic came and we went into quarantine, I was like, both my parents and because I agreed with my parents, and I was like, I definitely have to get some kind of something out, because that's what people need right now. They need a push. They need you know they need a note or two just to get them up in the morning. And so that's why I started the series. And I haven't done any lately because of school,
Hmm.
but I definitely plan on getting back with my band and performing, to recording some new songs, because some original songs, because we want to be the band that everybody saw during the pandemic. We want to be remembered and known, and not just ghosts. We weren't, before the pandemic we were there, and then after the pandemic we stopped. I don't want that to happen.
Well, I mean, stick with it, man. I really do think, like you said, we need a note or two or three or four or five notes right
Definitely.
now. And you have missed out on live performances during the pandemic. Your
Absolutely.
band has missed out on live performances. I've had other musicians on here and they say it's difficult because live performers, not only do they do it for the love of the performance, but that's how they get paid and that's how they get more gigs and sponsorships and things like that. So we got to get you at least out there doing some Zoom performances or sending out more series and recordings so that you can help other people and also that you can spread your art, spread your light. Well, you 16? How old you?
I'll be 17 in April. So I'll say I'd round it up, just say 17.
16, 17-year-old junior, Duke Ellington School of Arts, one of the premier schools in Washington, D.C., going back a long ways, named after the Duke, right? And so
Yes,
jazz
sir.
music, Elijah Jazz Music, right? That's your
Yes.
handle.
Yes.
Elijah's Jazz Music and his band, and your series is something that we need to continue to spread that light in the arts at this time. Um, I was going to ask you about your live performances. You talked about going down to Busboys and Poets. Where are some of your favorite performances that you've done?
I think my favorite performance has to be my favorite venue would be Busboys and Poets Tacoma.
Okay,
I think
way up top.
that one is that one has a close proximity to my heart because that was the first and the last performance that we did before the pandemic. And
Wow.
so I remember those very vividly. Those I remember the songs we played. I remember the reaction from the crowd when we played. We're very I'd say we were a very lively band. I
Hmm.
don't want to brag on us or anything, but I think we
Y'all
we
some
entertained.
showstoppers. Y'all live. Just
Yes,
say
yes, sir.
it. What do you miss about live performance? What was that feeling like
Whew.
a year ago when you were there in the moment at Busboys and Poet?
The energy, and because me and my band are so close, it's almost like a brotherhood.
Mm.
And we're trying to, during that time, we were trying to strengthen that closeness. And I miss the energy that we received from the audience, and that we were able to redistribute through our music. That was definitely something that always has touched my heart since I was a kid. Since performing in the elementary school band, being able to, hear people, see people hear us,
Right.
and being able you know, to feel the energy pretty much.
DC is known for music legends, musicians of all kinds. Marvin Gaye, Chuck Brown, right?
Yes.
Roberta Flack, all of these DC area natives. Right now, we got the Ari Lennox, the Wales, the Shy Glizzies. We got everybody on the map right now. DC is where it's at when it comes to music. You know a little bit about history though. If I asked you to pick one musician, one performer to perform with your band, either living or dead, as a DC native, who would you choose?
Mm. Can I choose two people?
Go ahead and choose two.
All right,
If
so
you get to three, we cutting it off.
I would want to perform with Duke Ellington, definitely, because he is pretty much a pioneer of jazz and of music in general, especially American music. And also, I would like to perform with my band and Davey Yarborough, who was actually one of our mentors.
Mhm.
Um, he used to work at Duke Ellington, and now he is working with the Washington Jazz Arts Institute. And he has just been so super supportive. He's so very, very supportive of our band, of the music that we're playing, our music in general, our careers, our technique, everything that has to do with our music. He has been like one of the greatest contributors to that.
Well, Elijah, thank you so much. Stick with the music, stick with your mentors and the people who have helped you along the way with this, and also continuing to contribute art and positivity into the world with your alto saxophone and with your band and in these performances. And they may not be live for a little while now, but we can get you on the Zoom performances, we can get you in the virtual performances to continue on with your music. Lastly, you know, this bonus episode is because you did a podcasting assignment for me in Miss Francis's class. What was that like, starting a podcast and being so open about the pandemic in your music?
Well, being open about it definitely was a burden, I'd say, because I'd never really thought before the project, I never really thought about, you know, how I really felt about the pandemic and how this has affected my music and how this affected school, my family, friends, you know, everyone around me, my entire environment. And it just felt good to be able to share that with other people, especially my friends and classmates who, you know, those who may not know me as well, or those who may know me as well. And I guess I got to give a piece of myself to them as they listened.
Yeah, it was very enlightening. I think your classmates did appreciate the vulnerability that you showed, your openness to give yourself and give a piece of what you've been going through over the last year with your peers and with your class. I want to thank you so much for doing the assignment, for coming on the show, for illuminating light with your voice and with your instrument and with your classmates and your friends at such a young age, but doing such positive and brilliant things. I want to thank you so much for coming on to this show. Elijah Woodward, can you tell me the name of the band, where we can find your music and your art, and any last words you want to give?
Well, the name of the band is Elijah and the Fixins. We do have uh, an Instagram page. It's mainly my Instagram page, but we do have performances there and on I said Facebook, right? And
Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can find us at Elijah Jazz Music, all lowercase, no spaces or periods or special characters. Um, yes, that's pretty much it.
That's it. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank your parents for me, and just continue to do the great work. And I'll see you soon in the classroom.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course.